Hey everyone, let's talk about what does it mean to be American after the Civil War. Now, at the end of the Civil War, the world was faced with so much trauma, so much trials and tribulations, and it was some trying times, like from gender roles, immigration, social and economical status, and the list can go on from what we have learned. Now, let's talk about gender roles. Now, gender roles played a big part in the 1800s, in the night, some of the 1900s. Um, from one example was the Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Gilman. Um, and in the first picture, you see like the Yellow Wallpaper where um, she was in an institutionalized uh, because her husband felt like that she was going crazy. If you look at the second picture, you can see that the man is trying to be dominant and letting his wife know who actually who wears the pants. And then if you look at the last picture, you see that a woman is actually being held by strings, which is by her husband. So she's pretty much like a puppet. Um, her husband controls her. Um, so women felt like they was trapped just like the lady in the Yellow Wallpaper. And with the men is always it was their way or no way. And women was like puppet and did as the men said. Um they didn't have no opinion, they didn't have any say so what went on in the household. It was just do what you're supposed to do, which was cook, clean, and take care of the children. Now, what comes with that, all women women are rebellious. They can't be. Anybody can be rebellious when they're told not to do something, or they can't do anything, or they don't have the privilege to do anything. So they do rebellious. So if you look at the first picture, it actually comes again from the Yellow Wallpaper, which I love that short reading that the doctor told her that she could not work. I mean, she could not write. And in her spare time, when nobody was in the room with her, she actually did write. Um, because they actually wanted her to just relax, and that's what they did back in the day. Is when women didn't do as their husband said, they institutionalized them because they felt like they was crazy. Because they didn't really, women didn't get no support back then on their dreams and ambitions like writing or anything outside of norm of being a woman. So, in the second picture, you can see that she's still being rebellious because now she's using her imagination. Because back then, women didn't have imagination. They didn't have a mind. They didn't have a voice. They didn't have anything. It was just they was mute. And then in the last picture, you see that the women are actually standing up for what they believe in. Here they're asking for equal pay just as well as the men because they want to go out there and work. Um, that actually will offer, ask women need to vote as well because they feel like that women, just as well as men, had a voice. So the first photo is from the Yellow Wallpaper. She does the opposite of what she was told to do. The second one was a man made sure the woman knew who was the boss, and the women wanted equality in their marriage. Um, they want to feel like they was the one. They want to feel equal to their husband. Um, And then further along as we go, we talk about reality versus expectations. So a lot of people, when they came over here to the United States or came into America, they they expected a lot. So like the ghetto wedding was a prime example. Um, she wanted this lavish wedding, um, not realizing that you can't have this lavish wedding unless you are financially stable, which she was not. Um, so here's a picture um, where the wedding was set outside and it's not as lavish as she expect. And then not realizing that the people that she was inviting was poor. They were struggling. They was living in poverty. That's what the second picture. And then the third picture is her expectation. This is what she really wanted. Um, so the wedding you end up having when your family and friends are struggling was that first picture. Um, because at that time nobody was financially stable. And then if you looked at that second picture, it was like the entire community was living in poverty. So if they're living in poverty, that means they can barely, get food, put food on the table. So how can they give you this lavish gift that you wanted or expected for them to bring to a wedding? And but in our reality, well, not reality, but in her dreams, and I guess that's every woman dreams that the expectation they want this lavish wedding. Um, excuse me, a difficulty of assimilation. So immigration wanted to come over. They wanted to join the United States. They wanted to migrate over here and be considered as free as Americans. So in this first picture, you see them coming there, and I guess they're waiting to get called to to g- be approved to be able to come to the United States. And but when they came over, they was expecting to find they wanted this they wanted to be free like America. They was expecting for America to, supply them with this financial relief that they was looking for. But they was end up able to come over here and work in factories, work in the tobacco, just to get that financial burden that they was looking for, relief that financial burden they was on. The next one is the mask. And we face this today. But back then, after the Civil War, blacks could not, or African Americans, they could not say what was on their mind. So they wore this mask to keep their mouths shut, they just smiled and agreed to whatever that their owner told them, asked of them, because if not, there was some dying consequences. If you look into the second picture, and their consequences was they could be lynched, or sold without being, without a notice. They'll come and get them, say, "Hey, come here," and next thing you know, they're getting sold. So, in order to keep their family together, they just smiled and kept on with, yes sir, no sir, and kept on and agreed to whatever their master told them to. Um, and we face with that a lot today. Just in order to keep a job, you want to make sure that you smile, and sometimes you have to hold your tongue and not say, you can't really speak everything that's on your mind. And last time I talk about is the civil rights. The civil rights, it was a struggle, especially for the African American community. um they It was painful, it was hurtful, but they felt like they should have been treated equally as any other race. They felt like they should have the same freedom, the same rights, the same equality that any other race had. So African Americans had to fight against racial violence, segregation, and disfranchisement, and which was hurtful and painful back then, because at the same time, still then they were still lynching back then. They were still whipping blacks. They were still blacks were still going through a lot, and so sometimes they did. If you looked at the second picture, in order to get their point across, they did peaceful protests and hold marches just to get their point across. So I hope you enjoy this film.